Capacita. Welcome to the learning module on the Capacita program. At the end of this module, you'll be familiar with 1. Purpose of Capacita, 2. Schema of the program, 3. Mechanics of participating. Let us now discuss each of these items in detail. Tata Power has been on a successful diversified growth path spanning multiple businesses and diverse geographies. This journey requires the building of a highly competent, future-ready workforce through robust competence enhancement systems. For this, a study of the required functional competencies for operations and maintenance roles in generation, transmission and distribution, as well as roles in corporate engineering, was undertaken as Project Capacita. Project Capacita study team met more than 300 people in one-on-one meetings, each of which spanned several hours, to draft the functional competence framework for identified roles. The draft frameworks were finalized by managers, heads of departments, as well as plant or station heads. The outcome of this study is the Capacita program. Capacita is a strength-based development program for officers of Tata Power and group entities. Their aim is to identify, develop, and grow the technical and domain strength of the individual in the career planning and growth of officers. Collectively, it will also enhance the organizational capability. Capacita brings a new way of building capability at individual, team, and organizational levels. Instead of an opinion and perception-based view of talent, it fosters a scientific approach of assessment, identification, learning, and growth. It's a positive and participative movement wherein the onus of in-process and post-process actions remains with the concerned officer, his or her manager, the head of the department, and the HR function. True care means growing people to their full potential and enabling them to achieve career and life aspirations. Capacita is an important initiative towards manifestation of organization care to its people. To make the most of this program, it's important that details, schema, and flow of structure is clearly understood by the concerned officers, reporting managers, and heads of the department. During implementation, the letter and spirit both are to be followed by all the participants in the true sense of design. This homegrown model of competency framework is a result of intensive and inclusive work by high-quality external experts and internal stakeholders. A comprehensive competency framework consists of technical or domain competencies on one side and behavioral, managerial, and leadership competencies on the other. Current rollout of Capacita is limited to first part, which is very specific to Tata Power entities. The behavioral, managerial, and leadership competencies are aligned to Group's Tata Leadership Practices or TLPs. In current phase, Capacita includes first part, that is technical, functional, and domain competencies. Subsequently, it is planned to integrate the second part of behavioral, managerial, and leadership competencies too, to make it a complete and comprehensive proposition. Scope. Currently, Capacita covers domain competencies of O&M roles in the generation, transmission, and distribution businesses and roles in corporate engineering. Progressively, roles in other functions will also be covered. During integration phase, behavioral, managerial, and leadership competencies of various roles will also be brought into its coverage. Periodicity. The assessments will be rolling. That is, they can be done at any time of the year. Though these assessments are encouraged to be annual, they may also be undertaken at any time based on business planning and individual career needs. Domain competencies are specific to and linked with role, and behavioral competencies are linked to work levels. A set of domain competencies are relevant to the specific role, and when the role changes, the set of domain competencies will also be different.
I consider this launch of Project Capacita or Capacita as one of the most auspicious project, I will say, for the organization and for the people. There has been a lot of work which has been going on this, and many people, many knowledgeable people have involved themselves to create a framework which is being brought forward to the people to use it.
Schema and architecture of Capacita. Role Competence Directory (RCDs) are the base for Capacita and contain the framework for each role covered under Capacita. The design of Capacita is aligned with the organization design, which takes into account multiple business such as generation, transmission, or distribution. These businesses are further organized into divisions like Coastal Gujarat Power Limited (CGPL), Maithon Power Limited (MPL), or Hydros, each of which have functions like operations, electrical maintenance, and mechanical maintenance. These functions may be manned by engineers, group heads, and led by a head, each of which is a role with an RCD. For example, an electrical maintenance lead engineer (LE) role based at Maithon will be aligned to the business generation division MPL, function or department electrical maintenance department, and finally the role LE. RCDs of Capacita have a three-dimensional design. 1. The first dimension in the RCD is the Equipment Activity List (EAL). This list contains the list of equipment managed by and activities carried out by this function. This list is especially useful when creating development plans and is not directly used during assessments. 2. The second dimension in the RCD is the Knowledge and Skills Dictionary (KSD). The KSD lists the Knowledge (K), Situational Skills (SS), and Universal Skills (US) required for each role function. Continuing with the earlier example, the KSD will list the Knowledge (K), Situational Skills (SS), and Universal Skills of the role of lead engineer, group head, and head in electrical maintenance at Maithon Power Limited. Knowledge in Capacita is the understanding of and information on a specific function. Situational skills are capabilities specific to the function, developed through training or experience. Universal skills are those that are required irrespective of function, such as job planning and team working. 3. The third dimension is the Competence Role Dictionary (CRD). The CRD will serve as the base for self-assessment. Each CRD has 4 to 8 work clusters, which are a group of activities performed by the function. Work clusters are usually no less than 4 and more than 8 in number for a function. Each work cluster is then divided into work elements which define the specific set of activities within the work cluster. Description of work elements are provided through task groups. Each task group details the outcome required in each work element through each role within the function, engineer or group head, etc. Assessment will be conducted at the most detailed level, at the level of task groups or work elements. A stepwise approach to assessment and development is recommended. For this, each work element is categorized as either essential E, or important I, or desirable D. Essential or E work elements which are basic to perform the role. Those who do not have the knowledge and skill to execute essential work elements cannot contribute to the function. Not more than 12 work elements are identified as essential for a function. The typical range is 6 to 12. Next comes the important work elements, or those classified as I. These are required to achieve desired outcomes or parameters of the function. All work elements which are not identified as essential or desirable fall in this category. The desirable or D work elements do not have a direct impact on the daily running of the function, and yet are required to achieve optimum and required output over the long term. Let's recap. 3 documents form the basis of the RCD. 1. The equipment or activity list, the EAL. 2. The knowledge or skills dictionary, the KSD. 3. The competence role directory, CRD. These documents have been made available on Sangam and are also available with HR. Mechanics of the process. The assessment is envisioned to be an annual process or is to be undertaken when there is a change of role for individual. To better explain the mechanics of the process, a conversational setting has been used. Success of the program depends upon the quality of conversation and the intent of the participants.
This matter of developing our internal competency framework for domain has been under consideration and discussion for quite some time. We wanted to build it because we wanted to have a framework and a model which would be relevant to us, which is sharp enough for us to address the needs that we have as an organization, and hence this project was taken up, Project Chamata. Finally, after a lot of rigorous planning, deliberations and theoretical considerations, we are coming up with our own framework.
Hello, Ms. Verma. How are you doing?
Hello, Mr. Mehta. I'm doing well.
Great. Have you heard of the new development initiative, Capacita?
Yes. Can you tell me more, please?
Sure. A functional competence framework has been created which will help our workforce remain on the cutting edge of knowledge and skills of the present and the future. Development plans can be initiated based on gaps identified through assessments using this framework.
Sounds interesting.
You will submit your completed self-assessment form to the manager for rating and comments, based on which a development plan will be jointly created. This plan will be reviewed by a panel who may suggest recommendations. The finalized development plan will be initiated and tracked by the employee in consultation with the manager.
This model has been co-created with participation, inputs and deliberation of several colleagues across different stations from all walks of O&M, and hence it has come out to be quite a robust model to begin with, and we expect that as we will be rolling it out year after year, it will improvise in its content and quality.
There is a paradigm shift in the business today. We are repurposing the organization, we are repurposing the operations. Now this repurpose requires many new skills to be obtained or acquired by the people, and also it needs to deal with the mindset of the people. People have a lot of aspirations today. They will like to fulfill their aspirations.
Hello, Ms. Verma. Have you had a chance to take a look at your form?
Yes. There are 3 versions of the form, identifiable by their color. Employees in work level ME are required to use the blue version. Work level MD will use the green version, and those in work level MC will use the yellow version.
First, I assessed myself against the Capacita framework using the Role Competence Directory, RCD. The RCD comprises of 3 documents: the Equipment Activity List, EAL, the Knowledge Skill Dictionary, KSD, and the Competence Role Dictionary, CRD. The CRD will form the base of the form filling process.
The EAL is specific to one's function, not to a role. It contains the list of equipment and activities for the function. The KSD is specific to the function and role. It lists the knowledge, situational skills, and universal skills required for a particular role in a function.
This project actually is going to give the power to the individual to decide on what skills he wants to acquire and what skill he has, or what competencies he wants to acquire and what competency he has going forward, where he wants to move and how far he wants to move, both.
The success of this model will depend upon how much of rigor we put in during the implementation, and once the development areas are identified for the individual, that also needs to be really put in place with total ownership of concerned officer, his or her manager and the head of the department, so that in long run we end up having a far more capable organization across different aspects of O&M and other aspects of organization.
The CRD contains all the tasks which are expected from a particular role. The CRD for a role is divided into work clusters and work elements. The work elements are detailed in task groups and have been categorized as E. Essential, I. Important, or D. Desirable. While all task groups, irrespective of the categorization as E, I, or D, are important for a function to work effectively, it is recommended to focus the first assessment and development conversations on the work elements marked as E. Later assessments can include the E's and I's, and eventually E's, I's and D's may be included in one go. To fill the form, I referred to the CRD applicable to my function and role, copied the work elements and the corresponding work clusters mentioned as E, essential, to the designated columns in the assessment form.
Once the appropriate work clusters and work elements were copied, I assessed myself on the work elements on a scale of 1 to 5. The rating scale is provided in the form in brief, and the explanation for the same is available in detail in the Navigator document. I took care to ensure that my self-assessment captured my proficiency at that point in time and was not an aspirational score. Also, relevant critical incidents substantiating the self-assessment score was provided. After completing self-assessment, the form appeared like this. Now that I have completed my self-assessment, the form is to be submitted to the manager for final score and inputs.
That was perfectly described, Ms. Verma. It is recommended that managers discuss their inputs with the employees so that there is a clarity of expectations. Let me enter my scores and comments and then meet to discuss the scores, comments, and the development plan.
Sure, I look forward to the meeting.
Of course, there will be seniors, there will be mentors who will hold his hand once he expresses his wish and also performs so that he is worthy of that hand holding.
Now that we have filled the assessment form, the next step is the development conversation involving completion of the development form.
The documents to be used for filling this form are the EAL, the completed assessment form, the KSD and the CRD.
This form captures the essence of Capacita and is to be completed by the employee in joint consultation with the manager. Areas which have been highlighted in the assessment form are considered for individual specific developmental plans. The development form contains 3 sections. The first section is called Focus of Development. This section answers what to develop, the work elements identified for development and their corresponding work clusters are entered in the designated sections. The third column in this section captures the specific equipment or activity which will be the focus for development. The list of equipment and activities in a function is in the EAL. If under a certain work element the employee needs development on more than one item from the EAL, Both items are to be entered in different rows with the same work element listed beside it. The second section is called Development Action.
This section answers how to develop. In the section above, we had selected the work element to develop and the equipment or activity for which these were to be the focus. The Development Action section allows the employee to enter the specific knowledge or skills which are to be developed and the avenues for it. The list of knowledge and skills relevant to undertake each work element is mapped in the CRD for the role.
Some developmental avenues are suggested in the developmental form itself. Employees may use the same or may suggest other means which are practical and effective. The third section is the Development Plan section. This section is meant to track the developmental actions suggested in the above sections. To ensure that the development plan is appropriate to the identified work elements and the scores finalized, a panel will review each assessment and development form. On completion of the panel review, the manager and employee may revisit the form, make any necessary changes, and submit the form to HR. It is recommended that a soft copy of the finalized form is shared between employee, manager, and HR. The hard copy of the final form will be maintained by HR.
The project envisages that we should have a spider chart of the functional competencies and we should have a spider chart of attributes, data leadership attributes. These are the two maps which will help him to actually exactly know where he stands and how far he wants to go and what he wants to do.
I have just received the copy of the form with recommendations from the panel. Let me make the changes suggested by the panel and plot the spider chart on the first page by listing the work clusters and their average score. This is my score for number 1, maintenance execution. This is my score for number 2, reliability management. Then number 3, that is cost management. Number 4, planning, budgeting and monitoring. And number 5, organization development.
With the launch of this project, my request will be to every fellow employee of this company that he should make best use of it to not only enhance his career but also to make himself happy, because I feel if individual gets empowered in enhancing his career and his growth, he is going to be a happy person within this organization. So all the best to every employee, to every fellow employee, to make best use of this project, to make best use of this method which is being brought forward to everyone. Thank you very much.
The success of this program is contingent on the rigor of assessment by self and manager and thought applied in deciding the development initiatives. While assessing, it should be kept in mind that being more generous than required may lead to loss of development opportunities to enhance one's career prospects as an individual and for achievement of organizational goals. Care should be taken to ensure that timelines entered in the development plan are adhered to. The Capacita program is intended to be long-term in nature, with the assessment being done year on year. If done thoroughly, the first assessment cycle should lead to a clear development and bridging of gap to required proficiency levels on work elements listed in the development plan. The next assessment cycle should include all the essential E and the important I work elements, and the subsequent cycle may be on all. Once all the E's, I's and D's have reached required proficiency levels, the employee and the manager may jointly decide to assess the employee on the requirements of the next role.
This is the first version, and hopefully In the days ahead, we will be able to refine it further with experiences and learning of the first rollout. The biggest beneficiary of this initiative are going to be the people who are going to undergo the assessment and development under this project. The final initiative has been named as Capacita, which denotes the capability of the people. So, the essence of this project is to grow the capability of people in general on their domain side. In phase 1, the O&M officers are being covered into it, and in the days ahead other functions will also be covered, while the process details and other things are being explained for understanding of all of us. The purpose of this remains singular, which is to build capability at individual and organization level. I will request all the colleagues to understand the nitty-gritty and intricacies of this project, and with genuine effort and interest participate into it, which will be beneficial to all of us in the long run.
I must now meet my manager and initiate the development plan. Thank you for helping me. I know that the Capacita initiative will really help me develop and grow.